There he is. A little bit of invisible act there coming through the ethers from Studio M, which is the art studio and healing center in a way that my partner and I, Barbara Bickle, an artist and an educator, etc., we have been in partnership for 30 some years. This video is not about us, but we really use the Studio M as one of the vehicles for doing transformative, restorative, and very interesting artistic work in the world, we think, and we invite others. So this morning's video, although, is about really how I come to a course. So this is the course video. I've given myself this assignment is to prepare a course video for the students in the course that you're in. And I'm in a course to explain, and I would like other students in the course, of course, to do their own videos if they wish. It's not just about me. And we'll share these videos as getting to know each other. Why? Because we're on a 4-month course called We Will Dance with Mountains. I'll come back to that title in a moment. And this was a course started by someone called, well, I'm not sure all the people that started it, but certainly Bayo Akomolafe is one of the main contributors and founders of the thinking behind and the energies behind. And he wrote this book, etc. You can talk about that in a moment, or you can read it. That I've done a few videos on him as well. So if you keep checking my YouTube channel. This course is a course I probably shouldn't belong in. Okay, what should? I never try to use don't should on yourself. Okay, well, it's a course that I that I ought not to probably participate in because I usually get miserable taking courses. I get grumpy. I get grumpy at the instructors, the design of the course, and other students, peers. And then I get really grumpy with, why did I join this course anyway? I know that I don't enjoy courses. I enjoy teaching them. In other words, I enjoy being the leader, the teacher, the facilitator, the designer. And I have a PhD in education curriculum and designs and pedagogy. So of course, I have a big vested interest professionally to be in control in a sense. Hopefully not in an obsessive fear-based way, but I like to be in the core of the foundations of why we do something the way we do it and what are our rationales for doing that. Well, so for me to take a course, I have to sort of give all that up and let somebody else create and design the course. And of course, Bayo Akomolafe per se is, not a teacher, a professional educator that's in that sense, but has a very interesting background, is Afrocentric, I would call, and interested in what the Afroscene is rather than the Anthropocene is in terms of how we deal with the future, where we're going as a species and where we're going as an entire planet of all these beings of all kinds, greater than human and other. So the whole course, you can see, as I just sketched the most briefest parts, you can look on this link below on the course, We Will Dance with Mountains, and why some people would go to it, why there is a very interesting application that my partner, Barbara, said, well, you should fill that out, Michael. That would be very interesting for you, I think, would fit for you. And of course, I'm going, don't get me in a course. Again, I've been so disappointed in so many courses. So I feel like I really have to say that up front in this video, introducing myself and my work and my thought and my participation in this course. So I'm going to say it's an ambivalent participation. And why is it particularly ambivalent? Is it's a dangerous space. Okay, I'm not somebody who shies away from danger per se, but some part of me does. That wounded victim part of me that has been suffering under whiteism and oppression and supremacy, and then comes into a world of diversity and peoples of colors, and now so many other identities continually emerging that I have to, in the postmodern world, encounter. And a white old guy like me, and I can be seen pretty much as a target for a whole lot of hatred. Well, what do I mean by that? A whole lot of pain, a whole lot of hurt, a whole lot of violence and colonialism, and yes, on and on we go. Oppression is foundational in my own work as an emancipatory educator, designer, practitioner. Okay, so the course, back to the course. So I'm walking in this very dangerous territory, which I ought probably not to be in to be safe. But then I went, well, Michael, this morning I was thinking of doing this course. Yeah, thinking of, am I going to stay in the course? And that only takes a couple of days of watching some people trying to organize and participating in the first online connections for the course. And we have these, little pod groups, and then there's a more broader creative pod group. And then on Sunday in a couple of days, Bayo Akomolafe and some others are going to do some kind of facilitating of the session, right? Which is the class we take every 2 weeks for a few hours. And then, so again, I'm doing this all online, and it's really weird. I do not like online education. On and on we could go. Oh, by the way, I just designed a course with my partner for an online PhD program, and I'm teaching online full time. I'm designing courses online. Well, it's my first. I'm just getting into it. And yeah, totally ambivalent. So you can just hear I'm so conflicted and ambivalent about the whole thing of, this is how we're going to go in the world to try to make changes and make this world better, or go down in a good way, as Bayo Akomolafe and others, how he presents a philosophy of a post-humanism and an Anthropocene, now turned to Afroscene. He is really saying we have to enter this Vunja, this experience of kind of very different kind of cultural worldview, and he's informing, along with others, an Afrocentric and traditional, ancestral, and quite mystical and poetic and creative way to come into the future, and how to be in a world, as he says, coming to an ontological end. And he's really talking for the most part about modernity. And now I have to start waving my hands, because I'm kind of going, there's so much, I'm throwing out so many concepts and words, and it's like hard to follow perhaps for viewers. But I really am doing this video in some sense for myself. I have to process all this stuff going on. I feel autistic. I feel like overwhelmed by, quote, the danger, the information, the new stuff, and I love it. But put me in a group, right? And I just watch myself starting to form these little groups, and how people communicate, and all the kind of little cues that I start to pick up. I'm hypersensitive to communication cues and patterns and discourses, and how they all start to influence conformity, or, who's in, who's out dynamics, and fear and trust and intimacy and exile. And then boom, Bayo Akomolafe says we should come into this as exiles. Oh, that's why I signed up for the course, right, Michael? You signed up because he was talking about exhalation. That is coming in, not just in celebration, which, this course is about. Somehow it is, I saw, I was at the first event, it seemed about celebrating, eating and dancing, and everybody happy. I can't stand it, it's too conformist too. And then he says, we're all exiles, and I'm going, yeah, I don't know, a lot of people seem to just want to be happy and connect with people and feel like they're not alone. And okay, well, I have all those feelings too. But I also am this incredible critic. I'm a critic of everything. I said this morning, oh, great. That's really good for socializing. Yeah, I feel like somebody with autism, not always high functioning, that I just cannot operate anymore, more and more. And I'm not somebody with severe disabilities in that trajectory of autism, so-called, and which is not a disease, as they were very clear. It's just a spectrum of different neurodiversity, right? Well, I also don't want to just talk about that we're neurodiversity. We're cultural values, worldviews diverse. So I'm not falling into the big neuro reductionist biological medical model anymore. Yeah, you sort of got all that. Okay, so I enter danger spaces a lot, and I'm going to talk about 2 events that I want to come to this course with. And so I'm kind of, in some sense, trying to create a container for myself to not get caught in just what other people are doing. And I can really easily get caught in that. I can get analytical about that. I want to make interventions. I want to do designs that I think would help. Oh my God. I should not be in this course. I always want to teach and help. I'm a counselor. I'm a therapist. I'm a visionary, blah, blah, blah. All right. So go back to these dangerous territories. It is a territory populated mostly by peoples of color, this course. Yeah, run and designed by. Yeah, I saw that at the first event, which was a week ago, which, went fairly well, but I had all these weird feelings being a white person and being in this group, and also, critical of everything. Oh, great. Another white person that's going to criticize people of color. Oh, great. Oh, that's a good start. How do you build a trusting community? Well, maybe we're not supposed to build a trusting community in this event. That's what I actually am attracted to. All right, back to my non-linear mind, as you see. Back to why is a danger zone. And Michael, you're totally prepared to go into danger zones. You do this. Your work is on conflict and fear in your graduate work. You've been doing this since 1989 on the path of fearlessness, and you're teaching there. All of that is about being vulnerable and crashing and reconstructing something from all the deconstruction that needs to go on, because we live in a totally oppressive capitalist world that is deadly white and deadly male and deadly blah, blah, blah. I ride my bike for fun, mostly. And then I realized, well, Michael, you ride your bike, you're a constant, I'm talking about a road bike, not a motorbike. And I ride this road bike all my life. I love riding, and I still do. And I'm 71 years old. And I'm out there when I go out on the road out here to ride. I do a circuit, and I'm kind of working hard. It's my workout. I want to keep somewhat physically in shape, although I'm not a super athlete or anything. And I've got a really nice road bike, and it really goes along and it flies, and I love it. Okay, so yeah, well, I have to ride on, it's a 2-lane highway, a fair amount of traffic, not always, but it can be. And there's the one lane here on the right side of the road. So I'm Canadian, and right side of the road is where we drive. And so there's one lane, fast lane, slow lane for cars, so 2-lane. I'm riding in that slow lane where I belong. That's me. I'm so much slower and behind the world, and yet I think I'm so much faster and way ahead of the world at the same time. Really weird combination. So I'm riding my bike. I have to stay on this side, not take up the whole lane, and that means there's parked cars. Yeah. And so as a bike rider every day, and I'm not the only one experiencing this, all bike riders more or less feel this, you're just wondering when you stay so close to those cars that are parked when somebody's going to open the door, right? Drivers or not driver's seat. And because I'm again Canadian, the driver's on the left side of the car, that's the door they open to get out. Yeah, that's right into the bike lane. And there's no designated bike lane most of the places, and it doesn't really matter if there is, because parked cars, when they open their door, that door comes into the bike lane. You now have a barrier. So I am constantly driving, riding, hour after hour in that condition, more or less. There's some times when I can ride in nice relaxed spaces on paths, bike paths and things like that. But generally, when you're on the fast lane, right, the highway, and to me, that's the same as the internet. I feel the same way. I'm driving in this narrow margin without a lot of protection, a little helmet that, yeah, that's really going to do a good when somebody opens the door. Just imagine smashing straight into a door. Never mind the person coming out of the car. What's going to happen to you on this little tiny bicycle? And I can just tell you, that's where is such a metaphor for me of driving in the internet and all these social media platforms, and now all these course platforms that I have to enter. Same problem. I feel like I'm driving always in this hyper vigilant, have to be aware, can't go to sleep. And yet that's where I have to drive. Why? Because that's where the lanes are, that's the way their lanes are designed. The cars are the dominators. I am not a car, I am a bike. I have lived with that tension between the car people and the bike people. And it's just like the neuro, ordinary people and the neurodiverse people. It's like the white and the colored people, and so on and so on. humans and the non-humans. So all of those XY dynamics of the dominant form, the way the world is structured and architected to be for those people of privilege, we call them, when you're in the other zone, which is in the marginal zone, which is in this little strip of danger zone that I'm driving, because I have to participate unless I go and live in a cabin in the woods, which costs incredibly a lot of money nowadays to be able to do. Or you have to just completely leave everything behind and find a way to do it. And some people do that. And I'm not prepared to do that because I kind of like working in the mess of the world and driving down this stupid lane that's incredibly dangerous. So far, so good. I've not had one of those major accidents of running into a door. I've had very close calls, I can tell you, and cars pulling out in front of you and or cutting you off. I could go on and on. So I am a biker in that sense. I'm not just a white male. I'm a very vulnerable human being that travels in this really delicate lane. And why? Because I love it. I love the bicycle. I love that I'm not burning up tons and tons of greenhouse, CO2s and so on and so on. I'm an eco person, was since I was a teenager, also creates huge problems of me belonging, fitting. So this video is all about the problems of fitting. All right, you got a little sense of me. I'm going to bring these two quick stories in that just happened recently, like within the last 2 days. And I said, okay, Michael, those are good. Those are going to color you. They're going to color you. And you can hear my artist, right? Like I'm totally an artist. You can see my art studios right behind me with my academic work. They're in the same space. I do both together seamlessly as much as I can. And that makes me not fit the world very well because most people who are very, very scholarly are not very, very artistic and creative, and vice versa. So I have this weird mix. I like to do both. Why not? I'm an integral person. I don't want to be divided up in all those specialist categories. So I'm transdisciplinary in that way. And so is Bayo Akomolafe and the way he approaches knowledge, philosophy, ways of living in the future. And that's why I was attracted to the course. I really like a lot of his philosophy, not all, and I have lots of critiques too, and so on and so on. But again, I come and these two little stories are very quick. First one, I'm coming to these to color how I come, how I dress. And you can see the diversity. I put this on today, attempting to live all this color and diversity, but I'm a white guy at the top, and really I'm a black guy at the bottom. I know I shouldn't say that. It sounds like appropriation, but I really like blackness. I really like indigenous peoples and a lot of their worldview. That doesn't mean I like every personality of them. The other, oh my God, you shouldn't say the other because then it sounds like it's a put down. No, it's not. The white is the other, but I'm also the minority, but I'm also underneath just totally white guy at some level. And of course I'm not because I have an ancestry of many colors and diversities. The two stories that I'm going to attempt to bring as I come into this course, I think they might be useful for me. Oh my God, because it is so hard, so dangerous, and I'm so ambivalent about being in the course, as I said. But here's what I want to communicate is we will dance with mountains. The first thing is I would like to signal myself walking into this, and if anybody else is interested, we will dance with mountains disabled. Got to add another D onto the end of we will dance with mountains. Another D, disabled. A lot of reasons for that. I won't go into the video because that'll take me on a whole course about the theory of critical disability or critical disability theory, and somewhat analogous to critical race theory. But critical disability theory I find in a way much more interesting and useful, and I'm not saying it's better or worse. I just think it's really more interesting for me and will produce, I think, great things. And I think that's why Bayo Akomolafe does use a critical race disability theory, not race theory so much. He actually is quite critical of critical race theory, interestingly enough, and likes to go into a critical disabilities theory and theories of autism and so on. Long story behind him and his family and his son who is diagnosed as autism or autistic. Okay, so these two stories quickly, you can see how hard it is for me to focus because I'm a very complicated thinker. And anybody who cannot be with that complication of me, I start to feel weird. I start to feel like a geek. I don't fit in. I'm doing it wrong. That's where I have my autistic social phobic reactions to group work of any kind now. And it's gotten worse over the years. I used to be much more capable. It seems the more intelligence and aware I become, the harder and harder it is actually to be in groups. Okay, brings up a lot of my grungy stuff. The two scenes that I have seen recently, the first one, it's a video, it's on YouTube, and it was very popular, and it just showed up on the side of my YouTube channel, and I said, okay, I'll check that out. Yeah, anyways, somebody doing it with a handheld camera at an event, which the basic scene is they're out in the middle of the desert, somewhere in the southern USA, Arizona, somewhere down like that. And it's on a major state highway going through the desert. Okay, it's hot, it's dry. This is all there is this road for a long way to get across this piece of desert. Very interesting metaphor. So everybody's traveling on this very vulnerable space, this highway, 2 lanes only. Big trailers, big trucks, all kinds of things, cars traveling and so on, where what happens is they hit a roadblock set up by climate activists. Block the highway, obviously must have done it early in the night, in the morning. Block the highway traffic on both sides. Both lanes cannot go through. Cars are lining up, people are steaming and getting mad and trying to keep their air conditionings on, and they're burning gas, and there's no gas station near. Okay, you have a very volatile situation for action climate piece of political work that these young people were doing, setting this up, and they're chaining themselves to this blockade of these metal parts and different things and signs and all kinds of things. Quite, it was a blockade that seriously thought through and designed. Okay, finally, what I realized in the narrative, somebody's recording this, is that most of the people going one direction are going to the Burning Man event, which is in some ways a lot like the Vunja for We Will Dance with Mountains that Bayo Akomolafe in this course is about. Like in 4 months, we're going to have some kind of festival and some kind of display about our work in this course in action. And here are these Burning Man people, without going in the background. Those are like really progressive, creative, artistic, spiritual people that build this city, 100,000 people join in the desert, and they build a city, take it down, and go back. It's a festival. And it is also a comment and criticism of the way we live as on this planet and the modern world. They're on each other's side, the climate activists and these people. Well, no, they weren't. And so when I actually watched that video, and I won't give it all away, you can look it up, they clash. There's violence, anger of all different kinds. The police come in and bash through the barrier and with their trucks, and there's guns being pulled on activists, and it's a mess. But basically what I saw is the left against the left, the activists against the activists, the green activists against the green activists, divided on this highway. Of course, there were some other people who are not of the as activist green, eco type philosophies and value systems, but they were there too, and they're of course angry as well for their own reasons. We just want to get to where we're going. That video, hold that scene, and that's one of the scenes I'm going to bring to this course, where we've got to in the complexity and the complicatedness of this conflict, and we can't even get greens together to move towards some kind of agenda. And that is very much what Bayo Akomolafe and the theory and philosophy behind what he's saying. I see that as our green disability. I'm just kind of using those terms. We've come to a green extreme disabledness. And how are we going to admit that disabledness? Okay, next video I watched just the other night. Again, I thought, oh, there's another one. I could bring that to the course. Again, I'm riding in this. This is my carriage. This is my coloring. This is what I need to come into the course. And I'm coming in perhaps so that I'm not so immediately feeling absolutely, in turmoil and in conflict and anger. I actually go, okay, Michael, you're bringing something. You're not just a victim to the way other people do things and act and speak and try to do things and be good. I have a big problems with the do-gooders at times. Okay. Second story, and I'll end the video here, is that the conversation was two young people. I'm talking 20s. Okay, really young people. And they're a couple. They have children. One is neurotypical. One is neurodiverse. Autism diagnosis at the age of, I guess, actually, she is 31. He is about 31. So 20s, 30s type young people's generation, Z, whatever. And therefore, they are having a conversation. They do these videos, particularly run by her, as someone with autism diagnosis now, and it's explaining her life since she got the diagnosis. She's really happy about that, sort of. And then he, very smart, teacher, school teacher, blah blah blah. He's talking about what he's learned living with her for the last several years and being in this spousal relationship, and how he's had to learn as a neurotypical person how to be with a neurodiverse person. And so you're having this amazing conversation in a way for the congratulations to them. And they are talking really about how to deal with oppression of being abled and sort of disabled. And that even that labeling is horrific itself and not always valuable, but there is a value to knowing that you're neurotypical and neurodiverse. Well, you could put that analogy very similar to all of these problems of who is in the norm, the neuroatypical, who is in the margins, the neurodiverse. And I just thought, yeah, and it happened to be about autism per se, but it could have been about just about anything where someone feels marginalized and even is wired, so-called wired, as a marginalized person. So yeah, with part of the autism is there's a neuro wiring that's different. At least that's the argument. And part of the distinction of that categorization of you are autistic. I was going to say artistic, very interesting slip. I certainly feel that flipping back between am I artistic or autistic or artist? Well, both and either or, trying to live with them both, trying to live with my whiteness in a world that is becoming and is more colored than white anyway. So that's where I'll end. Two little story narratives that set up scenarios, right, of conflict and how we handle it. The highway situation, the family situation, of the difference, right? The difference that is more than different, the difference that is destructive, capable of being absolutely destructive if there is not, some kind of processes of coming together. So watching that couple handle and talk about how they get together and communicate, where it breaks down, where it doesn't, and how to be with each other, and there are these huge differences. I thought interesting. So I'll bring it back together. I come to the work as a critic of everything. I come to the course, critic of everything. When I read this book, liked it in many ways, and it inspired me enough to keep following through to enter this course with Bayo as kind of the main teacher. And I immediately wanted to change the title of the book. Yeah, that's kind of typical of me. So that's, yeah, typical critic. Yeah. Okay, yeah, but yeah, you don't go around changing the title of a book somebody you admire the first time and you're taking a course by them and then you tell them, yeah, you really should change the title of the book. It's really These Wilds Beyond Our Defenses. D in parentheses there, you could easily put. Then I think we're going to get really touched down. Defenses. Fear-based, living in this modernist, fear-based construction, colonialism, blah, 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 imperialism, weightism, blah, blah, blah. Okay, then the course title that I want to change, or I want to come into it, is We Will Dance with Mountains Disabled. Okay. That's it. You gotta laugh. I'm just so glad I can share this and do this, whether people watch it or not. I just have to do this for myself. I woke up this morning. I have to do something. I'm carrying way too much energy and thoughts, and I don't want to obsess about these and have them get in the way. My goal or aim is to be with my disabilities and have others perhaps be with their disabilities, and can we be even sort of half decent to each other? Doesn't mean that we won't be angry and disagreement. And Bayo Akomolafe says in this course, you can come to it as exiles, which means we don't all have to agree. See you.